October 23, 1949, Semipalatinsk test site, Kazakhstan. The first Soviet atomic bomb detonates in the desert at 7 in the morning. The mushroom cloud rises 23,000 feet. Stalin gets the news within hours, but across the Soviet Union, a different kind of explosion begins. What happens to the scientists who helped build this weapon but refused to build the next one? How do you say no to Stalin when he demands a hydrogen bomb? What price do brilliant minds pay for drawing moral lines in a totalitarian state? The Soviet nuclear program began in 1943 under Igor Kurchatov and employed over 100,000 people by 1950. The first bomb took 6 years and drained resources from a war-torn nation. Stalin demanded the hydrogen bomb within 3 years. Most scientists obeyed. Some did not. Their stories disappeared into classified files for decades. The consequences were immediate, brutal, and permanent. Lev Landau sits in his Moscow apartment on November 15, 1950. The Nobel Prize winner in physics reads classified documents about the hydrogen bomb project. His signature appears on the initial research proposal, but by December, his name vanishes from all subsequent reports. The reason surfaces in KGB files opened in 1991. Landau tells a colleague the hydrogen bomb is a crime against humanity. The colleague reports him within 48 hours. Lavrenti Beria orders surveillance on December 22nd. Landau's phone calls are monitored. His mail is opened. His movements are tracked by 3 agents working 8-hour shifts. January 7, 1951. 2 black cars pull up to Landau's apartment building at 4:30 in the morning. He answers the door in his pajamas. The arrest warrant lists charges of anti-Soviet propaganda and treason. His wife Cora watches from the window as they drive him away. She does not see him again for 1 year. The official story is that Landau is ill. His university colleagues are told he has tuberculosis. His research assistants are reassigned to other projects. His laboratory is sealed and given to a new director. Lubyanka Prison, cell number 47. Landau shares 12 square feet with 2 other inmates. The interrogations begin at 2 in the morning and last until dawn. The same questions repeat for weeks. Why did you refuse to work on the hydrogen bomb? Who else shares your views? What foreign contacts do you maintain? Landau gives the same answers. He believes nuclear weapons threaten human survival. No one else influenced his decision. He has no contact with Western scientists. The interrogator, Colonel Mikhail Ryumin, files reports every 72 hours. Beria reads each one personally. The hydrogen bomb project advances without Landau. Andrei Sakharov leads the theoretical work. Igor Tam provides calculations. Yakov Zeldovich designs the trigger mechanism. The first test occurs on August 12, 1953 at Semipalatinsk. The yield reaches 400 kilotons, 20 times more powerful than the atomic bomb. Stalin is dead by then, but the project continues under Georgy Malenkov. Landau remains in prison, forgotten by most of his former colleagues. February 14, 1952. Landau suffers a heart attack in his cell. The prison doctor, Captain Boris Yegorov, recommends immediate hospitalization. The request sits on Ryumin's desk for 6 days. Landau recovers without treatment. His cellmate, a former engineer named Pavel Sutoplatov, later writes that Landau spent 3 weeks barely conscious, muttering physics equations in his delirium. The guard logs note unusual behavior, but no medical intervention. Victor Feinberg faces different consequences. The theoretical physicist works at the Institute of Chemical Physics in Moscow. His specialty is molecular dynamics, crucial for understanding fusion reactions. On March 3, 1951, he submits a resignation letter to the hydrogen bomb project. The letter is 1 paragraph long. I cannot participate in work designed to destroy human civilization. The letter reaches Beria's office within 12 hours. Feinberg's security clearance is revoked immediately. His laboratory access ends the same day, but Feinberg does not go to prison. His brother-in-law, Marshal Ivan Konev, intervenes directly with Stalin. The meeting occurs on March 11th in Stalin's Kremlin office. Konev argues that Feinberg is naive, not treacherous. Stalin agrees to exile instead of execution. Feinberg receives orders to report to the University of Tomsk in Siberia within 10 days. The journey by train takes 4 days. His wife and 2 children follow 3 weeks later. Their Moscow apartment is reassigned to another physicist within 48 hours. Tomsk, March 22nd, 1951. Feinberg teaches undergraduate chemistry to engineering students. His salary drops from 8,000 rubles to 1,200 rubles per month. His housing is a 2-room apartment shared with another family. No telephone, no access to scientific journals from Moscow or the West. His research equipment consists of a blackboard and chalk. Former colleagues stop answering his letters by June. If you value documented Cold War history like this, subscribe. It's the best way to support our work. Now back to the story. Anna Akhmatova never worked on nuclear weapons, but her case reveals the broader pattern. The poet's son, Lev Gumilev, is an archaeologist who refuses military research in 1949. His punishment becomes a template for other dissenting scientists. Arrest on October 10th, trial on November 15th, sentence of 10 years in the Gulag, but Gumilev has no brother-in-law to intercede. He serves the full term at camps near Karaganda, Kazakhstan. The pattern emerges from classified files. Scientists with military connections receive exile. Scientists without connections face prison or death. The deciding factor is not their scientific value, but their family networks within the party hierarchy. Landau's eventual release depends entirely on one man, Peter Kapitsa. Kapitsa leads the Institute for Physical Problems in Moscow. His Nobel Prize work in low-temperature physics makes him untouchable, even by Beria. But more importantly, Kapitsa has Stalin's personal respect since 1934. On January 15, 1952, Kapitsa writes directly to Stalin. The letter is 4 paragraphs. Landau is the Soviet Union's most brilliant theoretical physicist. His imprisonment wastes a national resource. His political views are irrelevant to pure research. The hydrogen bomb project can proceed without forcing Landau to participate. Stalin reads the letter on January 20th. His response is a single word written in red ink. Da. Yes. Landau walks out of Lubyanka prison at 9:15 on the morning of January 26th, 1952. He signs papers promising never to discuss his imprisonment or his reasons for refusing bomb work. The promise holds for 36 years. Back in Moscow, Landau resumes teaching at Moscow State University. His security clearance remains revoked. He cannot access classified research. His laboratory work focuses on superfluids and quantum mechanics. His students notice changes. He speaks more quietly. He avoids political topics completely. His former boldness disappears. Colleagues describe him as careful and distant. His research productivity doubles. Fear becomes a motivator. Meanwhile, Feinberg adapts to Siberian exile. By 1954, he establishes a small research group studying crystal structures. His work attracts attention from the Academy of Sciences in Moscow. The quality surprises administrators who expected him to abandon serious research. On September 7th, 1955, he receives permission to attend a conference in Leningrad. The trip requires a special travel permit signed by 3 officials. He returns to Tomsk within 72 hours as required. The hydrogen bomb tests continue. November 1st, 1952. The IV Mike test in the Pacific reaches 10.4 megatons. The Soviet Union responds with Joe 4 on August 12, 1953, 400 kilotons. But a true hydrogen bomb design, Sakharov becomes a hero of socialist labor. Tam receives the Stalin Prize. Zeldovich gets a dacha outside Moscow. The scientists who refuse participation watch from prison cells and Siberian classrooms. Rehabilitation begins slowly after Stalin's death on March 5, 1953. Nikita Khrushchev's government reviews political prisoners case by case. Landau's file is marked a resolved in April 1954. His full security clearance returns in September. Feinberg's exile status changes to voluntary residence in December 1955, meaning he can leave Tomsk but cannot return to Moscow. The distinction matters for pension calculations and travel permits. October 4th, 1957, Sputnik launches and changes Soviet science forever. International prestige demands the best minds regardless of political reliability. Landau receives an invitation to lecture at Cambridge University in March 1958. The invitation goes through official channels and receives approval from the Foreign Ministry. His passport application lists his destination as England and duration as 3 weeks. He returns exactly on schedule and files a detailed report on Western physics research. Feinberg's luck changes more dramatically. The International Geophysical Year requires specialists in atmospheric physics. His early work on molecular behavior becomes relevant to upper atmosphere research. On June 12, 1958, he receives orders to report to Moscow for reassignment. The return journey by train takes 4 days, exactly like his exile trip 7 years earlier. His family follows 2 weeks later. Their Tomsk apartment is reassigned within 48 hours. Back in Moscow, Feinberg joins the Institute of Atmospheric Physics as a senior researcher. His security clearance returns partially. He can access some classified materials, but not nuclear weapons data. His salary increases to 4,000 rubles per month. The housing assignment is a 3-room apartment in a building reserved for Academy of Sciences personnel. His neighbors include physicists, mathematicians, and engineers. Most worked on the hydrogen bomb. Dinner conversations avoid certain topics. The nuclear program expands relentlessly. By 1960, the Soviet Union maintains over 300 nuclear warheads. Testing occurs regularly at Semipalatinsk and Novaya Zemlya. Scientists who refused early participation find themselves drawn into related work. Landau's research on shockwave physics has military applications he cannot avoid. Feinberg's atmospheric studies support missile trajectory calculations. The boundaries between pure research and weapons work blur beyond recognition. Personal costs accumulate over years. Landau suffers memory problems after his imprisonment. His wife notices gaps in his recollection of events from 1950 and 1951. Medical examinations reveal no obvious cause. His research notes from the period show unusual patterns, repeated calculations, unfinished equations, fragments of work abandoned mid-thought. Colleagues attribute the changes to stress, but prison medical records remain classified. Feinberg's children adapt differently to their parents' experience. His daughter Elena becomes a mathematician and avoids any government work. His son Mikhail joins the Communist Party at age 21 and works on space program electronics. The family rarely discusses the Tomsk years. Elena later writes that they understood their father's choice, but never learned the full details. The official story is that he volunteered for provincial teaching to serve the people. Recognition comes slowly and incompletely. Landau receives the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1962 for his work on superfluids. The Soviet government celebrates the achievement publicly while keeping his imprisonment classified. At the award ceremony in Stockholm, Landau gives interviews to Western journalists. He avoids questions about Soviet nuclear policy and focuses on pure science. His answers are careful, measured, and reveal nothing about his earlier refusal to work on weapons. The hydrogen bomb becomes routine. By 1965, both superpowers maintain arsenals capable of destroying human civilization multiple times. The scientists who built these weapons receive honors, prizes, and comfortable retirements. The scientists who refuse participation find their objections were correct but irrelevant. The weapons exist regardless of individual moral choices. History moves forward without consulting conscience. Late revelations emerge from opened archives. Landau's prison file contains a medical report dated March 20th, 1952. The examination occurs 3 weeks after his release. His weight dropped from 165 pounds to 128 pounds during imprisonment. His blood pressure reading is dangerously low. Vitamin deficiency symptoms are noted, but not treated. The report recommends rest and improved nutrition. No follow-up examination is recorded. More troubling details surface about the interrogation methods. Ryuman's reports describe sleep deprivation sessions lasting up to 60 hours. Landau stands in his cell while guards prevent him from sitting or lying down. The technique leaves no physical marks but causes hallucinations and confusion. Modern researchers identify this as psychological torture, but the term did not exist in Soviet vocabulary at the time. Feinberg's Tomsk years yield unexpected discoveries. His work on crystal structures leads to insights about material properties at extreme temperatures. The research has no immediate military application, which allows him to publish freely in Soviet journals. By 1960, our Western scientists begin citing his papers. His reputation rebuilds slowly through pure academic merit. The exile that was meant to end his career accidentally preserves it. The final irony emerges decades later. Sakharov, who led the hydrogen bomb project, becomes a human rights advocate in the 1970s. His political dissent leads to internal exile in Gorky from 1980 to 1986. The scientist who built the weapon suffers the same fate as those who refused to build it. The difference is timing. Sakharov's punishment comes 25 years later, when international attention protects him from worse consequences. Archives opened in 1991 reveal the complete scope of scientist punishment during the Stalin era. Over 400 physicists, chemists, and engineers faced imprisonment, exile, or execution for refusing military research between 1945 and 1953. Most cases involved nuclear weapons, but some concerned chemical weapons, biological research, and rocket development. The pattern was consistent. Refusal meant punishment, regardless of scientific value or personal connections. Landau dies on April 1st, 1968, from complications following a car accident. His funeral attracts hundreds of mourners, including foreign scientists and Soviet officials. The official obituaries praise his contributions to theoretical physics. None mention his imprisonment or his refusal to work on nuclear weapons. The full story remains classified for another 23 years. Feinberg retires from the Institute of Atmospheric Physics in 1975. His pension reflects his full career, including the Tomsk years, which are officially recorded as provincial service. He lives quietly in Moscow until his death in 1983. His children learn about his moral stand against nuclear weapons only when reading declassified documents in the 1990s. The hydrogen bomb project creates unexpected divisions within scientific families. Yuli Khariton leads the Weapons Design Bureau at Arzamas 16. His younger brother David works as a theoretical physicist at Moscow University. In February 1952, David receives an invitation to join the hydrogen bomb calculations team. His refusal letter is brief. I cannot work on weapons of mass destruction. The brothers do not speak for 12 years. David Carrington faces immediate consequences. His teaching load doubles within 2 weeks. His research budget disappears in March. His graduate students are reassigned to other advisors by May. But, unlike Landau or Feinberg, David has family protection. Yulee intervenes quietly with program administrators. David keeps his university position, but loses all access to advanced research facilities. His career stagnates at the level of undergraduate instruction. The pattern of family splits repeats across Soviet science. At the Kurchatov Institute, nuclear physicist Mikhail Leontovich refuses weapons work in April 1952. His nephew Alexander Leontovich leads a research group designing plutonium triggers. The family gatherings end, professional collaboration ceases, personal relationships survive only when participants agree never to discuss their work. Secret cities expand rapidly to house weapons research. Arzima's 16 grows from 3,000 residents in 1946 to 15,000 by 1952. The city appears on no public maps. Mail addresses use code numbers instead of place names. Scientists live behind barbed wire and armed guards. The isolation is total but voluntary for most residents. High salaries and luxury housing compensate for restricted freedom. Scientists who refuse weapons work cannot access these closed cities even for non-classified research. Landau's theoretical work on many body problems has applications to nuclear physics, but his security status prevents collaboration with Arzama's 16 researchers. The scientific community fragments into classified and unclassified sectors with minimal communication between them. The Korean War intensifies pressure on all Soviet scientists. American nuclear capabilities demonstrated in Japan create urgent demands for matching Soviet strength. Stalin personally reviews lists of physicists not participating in weapons programs. On September 12, 1951, he orders Beria to persuade or replace any scientist whose moral objections slow military research. The order results in 63 new arrests within 6 weeks. Among those arrested is Georgy Flerov, who discovered spontaneous fission in 1940. His refusal to work on fusion weapons leads to imprisonment at Vorkuta labor camp in November 1951. Unlike Landau, Flerov has no prominent advocate. He serves 4 years cutting timber and mining coal. His hands, once precise enough for delicate nuclear experiments, become gnarled and scarred. He returns to physics in 1955 with permanent nerve damage in 3 fingers. The interrogation techniques evolve throughout this period. Reumann develops methods specifically for educated prisoners. Temperature manipulation replaces physical beatings. Cells alternate between excessive heat and freezing cold every 12 hours. Scientists accustomed to precise control find the unpredictability psychologically devastating. Sleep schedules shift randomly. Mealtimes change daily. The goal is disorientation rather than confession. Landau's cell records show the temperature regime in detail. January 15th through 22nd, 1952. Temperatures alternate between 38 degrees Fahrenheit and 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Landau develops pneumonia on January 18th. Medical treatment consists of aspirin tablets twice daily. His fever reaches 103 degrees on January 20th. The temperature manipulation continues until his release 6 days later. International attention provides partial protection for some scientists. Peter Kapitz's correspondence with British physicists means his arrest would create diplomatic problems. Foreign colleagues inquire about Soviet scientists who stop publishing or attending conferences. The inquiries filter through embassy channels to the foreign ministry. Scientists with international reputations face exile rather than execution. But most refused scientists have no international protection. Boris Podolsky works on quantum mechanics at Leningrad University. His research has no direct weapons applications. But military administrators demand his participation in classified projects anyway. His refusal in June 1952 leads to immediate arrest. No foreign scientists know his name. No embassy inquires about his disappearance. He dies at Kolyma gold mines in March 1954. The hydrogen bomb testing accelerates regardless of individual objections. August 20th, Vargas 1953. The first deliverable Soviet hydrogen bomb detonates at Semipalatinsk. The yield reaches 400 kilotons. November 22nd, Byan-Mitsuga, 1955. A 3-stage design produces 1.6 megatons. The tests occur every 6 to 8 months through 1962. Each explosion vindicates the scientists who participated and condemns those who refused. Rehabilitation policies change under different Soviet leaders. Khrushchev's government reviews cases individually starting in 1954. Scientists imprisoned for refusing weapons work receive priority consideration, but the review process moves slowly. Committees examine each case for months before making recommendations. Appeals drag through multiple bureaucratic levels. Some scientists die in camps before their files reach the review stage. Surviving families face ongoing consequences. Landau's wife, Cora, cannot find employment during his imprisonment. Universities refuse her teaching applications. Research institutes reject her job inquiries. Her academic credentials become irrelevant when security checks reveal her husband's status. She survives on savings and help from brave colleagues who risk their own careers by maintaining contact. The financial costs of moral resistance accumulate over decades. Feinberg's salary in Tomsk covers basic living expenses but prevents any savings. His children wear donated clothing and eat subsidized meals at school. His wife works as a seamstress to supplement their income. The family budget allows no luxuries, no vacations, no cultural activities. Their living standard drops to that of manual laborers despite their advanced education. Medical consequences emerge years after imprisonment. Landau's heart problems begin during his incarceration and persist throughout his later career. His medical file from 1960 shows irregular heartbeat, elevated blood pressure, and chronic fatigue. Prison doctors note these symptoms in 1952, but provide no treatment beyond aspirin. The damage accumulates silently for years. Other imprisoned scientists report similar health problems. Flerov develops lung disease at Vorkuta that kills him in 1969. Podolsky's death certificate lists malnutrition and exposure, but these are symptoms of systematic neglect rather than natural causes. Prison conditions for educated prisoners are designed to break their spirit while preserving their potential value to the state. The space program creates new opportunities for rehabilitation. Sputnik's success in October 1957 demands the best Soviet scientific talent regardless of political reliability. Sergei Korolev personally requests the release of several imprisoned scientists for rocket research. The requests receive immediate approval from the Presidium. National prestige trumps ideological purity when international competition intensifies. Feinberg benefits from this shift in priorities. His atmospheric physics research becomes relevant to spacecraft design. The invitation to return to Moscow in 1958 coincides with increased funding for space-related research. His security clearance returns gradually, first for meteorological data, then for upper atmosphere studies, finally for satellite trajectory calculations. Each level of access requires separate approval and monitoring. The Cuban Missile Crisis in October 1962 demonstrates the practical consequences of nuclear weapons development. Soviet missiles stationed in Cuba carry warheads designed by scientists who remained in the program. The weapons that Landau and others refused to build now threaten global destruction. The moral objections raised a decade earlier prove prophetic, but politically irrelevant. Personal relationships slowly rebuild after Stalin's death. Landau begins corresponding again with foreign physicists in 1956. His letters avoid political topics, but resume scientific collaboration. Western colleagues learn about his imprisonment only through rumors and inference. Official Soviet publications never acknowledge the punishments inflicted on dissenting scientists. The academic community develops unspoken protocols for handling former prisoners. Colleagues avoid asking direct questions about missing years. Research gaps in publication records go unmentioned in biographical sketches. Job recommendations omit references to political reliability. The silence protects everyone involved but prevents full historical understanding of the period. Scientific productivity often increases after imprisonment or exile. Landau's most important theoretical work occurs between 1952 and 1962. His focus sharpens, and his mathematical technique improves. Former students attribute this to increased motivation and reduced distractions. Prison experience eliminates the illusion that time is unlimited. Feinberg's Siberian research leads to unexpected breakthroughs in crystal physics. His isolation from Moscow prevents access to current literature, but forces original thinking. His papers from the Tomsk period show unusual creativity and independence. The punishment intended to end his career accidentally enhances it by removing external influences and expectations. The hydrogen bomb program achieves its strategic goals by 1960. Soviet nuclear parity with the United States is established. The scientists who participated receive recognition and rewards. The scientists who refuse participation are forgotten or erased from official histories. Their moral stands become footnotes in classified files. International recognition arrives slowly for Soviet scientists. Landau's Nobel Prize in 1962 acknowledges his superfluid research, not his moral courage. Foreign colleagues learn about Soviet scientific repression only after the Cold War ends. The full extent of punishment for refusing weapons, work remains hidden for 30 years after Stalin's death. The final document in Landau's file is a letter dated December 15, 1991. The prosecutor's office formally exonerates him of all charges related to his 1951 arrest. The letter states that his imprisonment was groundless and based on fabricated evidence. It arrives at his widow's address 23 years after his death and 40 years after his release. Similar letters reach other families throughout the 1990s. Official admissions that moral objections to nuclear weapons were not crimes, but correct judgments about humanity's future.